It's Thursday, March 19th, 2020, and here's what's happening. We have the latest from local officials about the novel coronavirus outbreak in Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties. Plus, hospital officials from UPMC Chautauqua here in Jamestown join us to talk more about the outbreak and what they're doing to contain it and how residents can get tested.
And a live look over downtown Erie shows you the overcast skies and the fog. But big changes on the way for tomorrow with storms with gusty winds. We'll talk about it and more as the news at noon starts right now.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thanks for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. We start with a local update on the novel coronavirus outbreak. Chautauqua County Executive P.J. Wendell will update the public on the evolving COVID-19, the novel coronavirus outbreak, at a press conference today. Wendell will be joined by Chautauqua County Public Health Director Christine Schuyler, Chautauqua County Sheriff Jim Quattrone, Chautauqua County's Director of Emergency Services John Griffith, and the county's physician, Dr. Robert Burke. Wendell will speak in the legislative chambers on the third floor of the Gerasi office building at 4 o'clock today. Now, we will stream that press conference live on our Facebook page. As of last check with Chautauqua County health officials, there still have been no confirmed cases of the virus here in the county. However, there are now 20 people under a precautionary quarantine. Furthermore, county officials report that the blood supply at local hospitals has been threatened by the outbreak. If residents are healthy and eligible, officials are asking them to donate blood. In Cattaraugus County, health officials are warning those who visited Hollymont Ski Resort in Ellicottville earlier this month may have been exposed to COVID-19. The Cattaraugus County Department of Health says a woman from Essex County visited the resort between March 3rd and 8th. During her visit, she did not exhibit symptoms of the virus but began to show days later on March 12th. Anyone who was in the vicinity of the U14 race, the resort in general, on those days may have been exposed. For those who experience symptoms like coughing, shortness of breath, and/or fever should monitor themselves. If the symptoms do not appear by March 22nd, health officials say you have likely not been exposed. Health officials say as long as residents remain in good health, maintain social distancing, good hygiene, and common sense, there's still a lot of things to do in our area. They recommend detaching from screens, getting off the couch, and to the best of our ability, seize this as an opportunity to shake things up and go outside and enjoy the fresh air. One of the county's largest manufacturing plants is taking steps now to protect its workers from virus exposure. Cummins Engine Plant, in a post on the company's website, says they're working to implement internal health and safety policies to protect their employees. The company says they are providing protective wear and disinfectant supplies for employees working on site and ensuring that sanitation and disinfecting of their facilities regularly occur. Furthermore, Cummins says they currently have region-specific travel bans in place as well as global travel restrictions. Visits by external parties such as customers and suppliers to the facility have now been limited. Recently, the company provided more than 500,000 protective masks to their employees in China during the virus outbreak there. Well, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo signed a bill last night that guarantees paid leave for those placed in mandatory or precautionary quarantine due to the novel coronavirus outbreak. Meanwhile, nationwide, President Donald Trump has signed a similar relief package. John Lawrence explains more.
A helping hand for Americans dealing with the daily stress from the coronavirus pandemic. The economy is strong, the foundation of it, Joe, but the reality is that there's certainly going to be people impacted in the short term. So we need to make sure that action's taken quickly to make sure that we're giving them the resources they need.
A relief package passed by the House was then approved by the Senate and signed into law by President Trump Wednesday.
I want to thank all Americans for pulling together, for coming together, for doing what they have to do. It's been incredible. It's been inspirational.
The legislation provides up to 2 weeks of paid leave for some workers. There's also a benefit limited to $200 per day for employees with relatives who are affected by the disease.
If there are going to be some of these corporate bailouts, we need to make sure workers and labor come first, that people are not laid off, that people's salaries are not cut.
Although some Senate Republicans were previously critical of the House's legislation, they stressed the need to get aid to the public.
Its imperfections will just make our more comprehensive package even more urgent.
The Senate is now working on a Phase 3 economic stimulus package related to the coronavirus outbreak. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
John, thank you very much. This legislation comes on the same day the Dow closed below 20,000. That's something that hasn't happened in just over 3 years. And we remind you that if you need extra information in regards to the novel coronavirus outbreak, we have a link on WNYNewsNow.com that explains just that. And again, we will have live coverage of an update from county officials today at 4 o'clock right here on Facebook Live and on WNYNewsNow.com. Well, in other news, 2 Chautauqua County residents graduated from the New York State Police Academy this week. Trooper Ryan Dustin of Falconer will be assigned to Troop E in Canandaigua, while meanwhile Trooper Guy Capitano of Silver Creek will be assigned to Troop C. In total, 226 New York State troopers graduated from the 26-week course. The new troopers will report for field duty on March 23rd. For the following 10 weeks, they will then be evaluated under a field training program supervised by senior training officers. Really great to see, and congratulations to the both of them, and certainly doing their public service there in the community, and we wish them well and hope they're safe as they continue their journey as a New York State trooper. Hopefully everybody is having a good day, and we thank you for joining us here. Got to say hello to Tabby. Hopefully they're doing well. Good afternoon to Heather, Jason, Renee, Brian as well. Good afternoon to David. Hopefully you're all doing well, and we thank you so much for joining us here on WNY News Now. Tabby says they should be testing people, not just who they want to. And Jason Etam's in here. There's plenty of empty buildings that could be used to make hospitals. Good afternoon to Renee. She says, stay healthy, fellas, and lots of nice temperatures out there. And indeed, it is feeling like spring is here. And I suppose, Dakota, now, spring officially is here at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, spring actually isn't officially here because the equinox doesn't occur until tonight. Even though today's the official start of spring, spring has not officially started until like 11 o'clock tonight.
I suppose that's why I do the news and you do the weather.
That's exactly right. That's why Andrew and I do the weather, and that's why Justin and Matt and everybody does the news. Anyway, here we go with the satellite and radar composite. The rain that we had this morning has tapered off, but notice a lot of the sucked-in cloud cover today. That's really going to be the story through the afternoon today. A lot of cloud cover. I think the clouds are really going to win it out, but don't be surprised if you see a few limited peaks of sunshine this afternoon, but mostly overcast for the day. We have a few, again, we have a little bit of fog out there. 6 miles is the current visibility in Erie, also in Dunkirk, 7 miles in Niagara Falls. The fog in Jamestown has started to lift right now, but as of like 9 o'clock this morning, there was less than a half-mile visibility being reported there. High wind watch stays in place. This will go into effect 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and will run until 6 p.m. tomorrow night. I expect this high wind watch to be upgraded to a warning sometime this afternoon, and of course, when they do that, we will keep you updated on that, but that is the potential for strong, gusty winds, especially tomorrow afternoon. 45 was the high yesterday. That's right in line where we should be for this time of the year. 77 and 2 below zero are in the record books for today, set back in the early 1900s. So here's the forecast for the afternoon. Mostly cloudy to complete overcast through the day, but it will be a mild day for this time of the year and mainly dry through the afternoon. Once you work on actually that should be reversed. There should be 47 near near the immediate Lake Erie waterfront, going to 59, while inland northeast winds shifting south 5 to 10 miles per hour. Storms return tomorrow. Some of them could pack a punch. We'll time it all out in just a few minutes. Justin, back to you.
All right, Dakota, thank you very much. Coming up next, the President and Chief Nursing Officer from UPMC Chautauqua Hospital in Jamestown join us on the phone to talk more about how they're dealing with this coronavirus outbreak and what people here should do if they need medical help. Stay with us.
With coverage that matters. This is WNY News Now.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer, plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you.
This is Christine Schuyler, Chautauqua County Public Health Director, with a very important message. We need you to make every effort to protect yourselves and our healthcare workers. If you absolutely don't need to go out, don't. If you have a mild cold or flu-like symptoms, with or without a fever, stay home. If your symptoms are severe, call your healthcare provider. Do not go to the emergency room or urgent care. Do not call 911 or go to the ER unless you are experiencing a life-threatening emergency. The best ways you can help prevent the spread of COVID-19 are to wash your hands often with soap and water, cover your cough, avoid close contact with others. Please stay home.
You're watching WNY News Now, your source for breaking news.
And welcome back to WNY News Now. Yesterday, UPMC Chautauqua Hospital announced changes to their visitation policy to temporarily ban all non-medical necessary visitation effective immediately amid the current novel coronavirus pandemic. Joining us on the phone now to talk more about the hospital's response to the COVID-19, the novel coronavirus outbreak, is the president of the hospital, Brian Derniak, and the Chief Nursing Officer, Amy Haggerty. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, first off, let's start with you, Mr. Derniak. I want to ask about this new visitation policy and what it means for family and friends who are trying to visit the hospital.
Sure. So yesterday, Governor Cuomo and the Department of Health announced some new standards that have been implemented to help ensure safe practices in the hospitals for the patients who are here, as well as our employees. And so what the changes that went into effect yesterday was that for the vast majority of our patients, they will not be allowed to have visitors during their stay. If a patient is in a end-of-life situation or an exceptionally critical situation on a case-by-case basis, we will have the ability as an organization to allow visitors one at a time to those patients. The other area that we will be allowed to have patients visit is on our obstetrics units. And so moms who are in the process of delivering a baby will be allowed to have one visitor during their birth process. So that's the real exception that we'll have to the policy. So as a result of that, we've made some changes on our flow to the hospital where people will come into the organization. And so really, we're trying to direct our patient traffic and visitor traffic through our emergency room, as well as our medical office building entrance, where patients go for the vast majority of their outpatient testing. And so when they come to the hospital, they'll be greeted by security or an employee who will just ask why the person's here, who are they to see, are they here for a medical test, that type of thing. And so while we recognize a lot of people would like to have some with them when they're having a test or having different procedures, since this is something that's been mandated through the state, we will do our best to comply with it.
Now let's talk more about the novel coronavirus outbreak here. In addition to the steps you took yesterday, how is the hospital preparing to have people come in and undergo testing?
So it's Amy. What we're doing is when somebody comes into the hospital, let's say that they're coming in through the emergency room and they are presenting with respiratory type of symptoms, there is a screening process that we work through to help us determine whether testing should be done or is not warranted. So anyone coming into our ED with respiratory symptoms would be masked and they would be taken back to one of our ED rooms. Again, our providers then work through a series of questions, and then we do some, screening. Obviously, we're still very much in our flu season. We have seen a ton of flu still coming through, so we really need to be careful that we're discerning the right type of thing that's happening with the patient. Is it the flu? Is it strep throat? Versus like what we would then might think could be COVID-19. So there is a pretty rigorous screening process that we work through because we want to get the right care to the patient.
Now, I know county health officials have told us this week that instead of going to the emergency room, they're recommending that people maybe call ahead to their doctor to try to schedule an appointment if they feel they have symptoms. Is that still the case as of this moment?
Yes, and thanks for asking that question because that is a really, really good point. So what we want people to be doing, and that is absolutely the correct procedure, we do not want people just randomly funneling into the emergency room. That is not the right methodology for this. What we want people to do is if they are experiencing symptoms, we want them to call their PCP, call their doctor's office, who can then there's a process that all the physician practices have been provided with to work through the Department of Health to then help guide what type of testing and where that patient should go for testing. So yesterday, our County Department of Health worked with the Chautauqua Center that is in Jamestown to set up a collection site, but that is not for people to just randomly show up to. Again, there is a screening process that gets done through the PCP's office, the physician's office, and through the Department of Health to determine, again, is this person, requiring COVID-19 testing or not? So very, very important that people are working through the right process to obtain screening if needed.
The real reason for that, for that is that there are limited resources at this point in time as far as the number of tests that we can actually process because of these are going to centralized labs. And so multiple hospitals and collection points are collecting samples and tests, sending them to these centralized labs. They have a finite capacity of how many tests they can actually do at this time while they're actively trying to ramp up that capacity. And so the county health officials and the Department of Health obviously want us to provide testing to those patients who are highest risk and show symptoms that would be more likely to be a candidate for possible COVID-19. And so there's a methodology behind why we are trying to be selective about who actually does get swabbed.
Now, we've seen nationwide that there appeared to be a shortage of these test kits and then places for those tests to get tested. Do we have a number of kits here in Jamestown? And then, as you mentioned a little while ago, the process to get them tested, how fluid is that?
Do you want to take that? So we do have test kits available in Jamestown. But again, as Brian had indicated, we do need to be careful with our resources so that we are not just randomly, testing everyone. So again, as he had indicated, yes, we do have testing kits available, but using them wisely and using them for the people who are at risk or are presenting at risk for potentially having COVID-19, that is still the most important measure that we're doing right now to ensure that we have kits for everyone who might need one.
Now, as of yesterday afternoon, Chautauqua County health officials have said that there's now 20 people under a precautionary quarantine, and we still at this point have 0 confirmed cases of the virus here. What role does the hospital play in this containment effort? Do people go home for the quarantine? Do they stay there after they take a test? Do they have to be quarantined? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So people, if they are not ill, I guess, sort of the barometer, I guess, for the layperson is kind of like, if you were sick with the flu, what would you normally do? You would stay home, with your symptoms. You don't need to be hospitalized. Same type of concept here. So if you are under investigation, have been screened for COVID-19, you asymptomatic or mild symptoms, you would be absolutely at home and quarantined for a period of time. If you are truly sick, where you are requiring medical help, those are the patients that we would be keeping here at the hospital. So again, most people are going to be in the outpatient setting. They are going to be at home, quarantined at home, and that's absolutely the right thing to do. We want to use the medical resources inside of a hospital for those who are truly sick and warrant that level of care.
Now, can you remind our viewers what the symptoms of the novel coronavirus are and what they should be watching for before they feel they need to get tested?
Yeah, so another great question. So a lot of people are actually asymptomatic, meaning they don't have any symptoms at all. People that, as this has, been tracked around the country and the world, most people that are showing symptoms have a low-grade fever, about 100.4, 100.6, somewhere in that range. They might have a cough. They might have some other type of respiratory symptoms, such as shortness of breath or some difficulty breathing. Those seem to be the most common symptoms that people are experiencing. And those would be the people that, again, there's other risk factors that we take into consideration. Have they traveled to areas of the world that have been, have had outbreaks of COVID? Have they domestically traveled to a place that has been more active with COVID? So those are types of things that we take into consideration, when we are deciding about whether somebody is truly like a COVID potential patient, or if they are more just a traditional flu, because unfortunately, COVID-19 does very much mimic influenza A and influenza B, which we have seen a ton of activity with.
And finally, how is the hospital working to keep its staff safe as we move forward through this COVID-19 response?
Well, I think that, the New York Department of Health has taken great measures in keeping not only patients but staff safe with their mandate yesterday with the no visitation. So that's a really important step. The less traffic you have coming through a hospital, the less potential there is to move the virus around to other people. UPMC, though, as a system, has had very comprehensive education and different policies and procedures that it has put in place to protect workers inside of all of its different hospitals. So that is, ramping up supplies of, needed personal protective equipment, including masks, mobilizing, just other different resources. Again, the education has been extremely important to our staff and, and making sure that they understand what the virus is and how we will respond to it if we, do have a patient that potentially comes through with the virus. So, we have done a lot of just different things inside of our own UPMC system that have been really great resources to our staff to help keep everyone safe.
We make sure our patients, our employees, actively hand wash all the time. That is, if we were going to say one thing to not only for our employees, but for the community at large, wash your hands all the time. whether it's with hand sanitizer or at a sink for 20 seconds. Hand washing is a key, not touching their face, those type of things for the public to do. But as far as our employees, we again are doing our best. They wear gloves all the time. They wash their hands all the time. If we had a patient come into the hospital who had other health issues or their just general health was poor enough that they needed to be admitted to the hospital, and they present with symptoms that would mimic the COVID-19, we put them in special patient rooms that have negative airflow to keep the patient and the employee safe until we get the results back from the testing that we do. The one challenge that occurs right now with the testing is the results aren't instantaneous. So while we may swab somebody today in order to find out if they actually have the virus, it's usually a number of days before the results come back. And so you don't have feedback within an hour or even 24 hours. It may be 3 or 4 days before we get those results back. So whether you're in the hospital or you're getting swabbed as an outpatient, those patients are going to be quarantined either at home or if they happen to be at the hospital in a room until those results come back. And right now, it's not an instantaneous result.
All right, President of UPMC Chautauqua Hospital here in Jamestown, Brian Durniak, and the Chief Nursing Officer, Amy Haggerty. Thank you both for joining us today. Your insight has been very helpful. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get a check of our forecast now with Chief Forecaster Dakota Hunter. Hey, Dakota.
Hey, Justin, and today is very special because today is the beginning of spring, and it is the spring vernal equinox. So what exactly is it? Again, we showed this graphic last year, and we kind of revamped it again for this year. So the equinox is actually Latin for spring equal night. That's what vernal means. And essentially, today is when the sun is directly over the equator, or should I say tonight, that's when the sun is directly over the equator. That means the sun's energy is equal across the entire globe. Its rays are equal across the entire globe of ours. And in Jamestown here, we have 12 hours, 9 minutes, and 23 seconds of daylight. So it's not equal day and night. Again, we were close to that the other day when I showed you how we got close to 12 hours. But again, a lot of people think we have equal day and night time on this day. It's close, but not exactly. All right, enough of daylight. Let's get into radar here. Nothing going on here. The rain that we had tapered off, but our next storm system is back to our west, and it will be moving through here. It's right there. You see all those flash flood warning polygons out there. There's a lot of heavy rain with this system. The actual low is going to track up in the upper Great Lakes tonight. We're going to be on the warmer side of this, and that means showers and storms, and some of them could pack a punch. NOAA Storm Prediction Center maintains the low-end marginal risk. That's all this darker green. That's a level 1 out of 5 for the chance for severe thunderstorms tomorrow. And the better chance for this is going to be in the afternoon hours because we'll show you here on Future Scan there could be some sunshine tomorrow that may fuel some thunderstorm development. So here we go. Dry through the day, absolutely nothing. As we head into tonight, that low pressure area moves to our northwest up into Canada. So rain showers will be coming in and it will become widespread overnight. There could be even a few rumbles of thunder overnight. So don't be surprised if you hear, a few rumbles of thunder. Showers and storms definitely possible tomorrow morning, but watch what the model tries to paint here in the afternoon. This area of clearing, there likely could be some areas of sunshine here in the early afternoon. And sunshine when it comes to thunderstorm development is the fuel. It's the petrol that essentially allows thunderstorms to form. So watch the model bring another line of showers and thunderstorms in through the afternoon hours. This is by about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, these storms have the potential to produce gusty winds. The winds really come up tomorrow, so it won't take a whole lot to produce a lot of winds. Now, in terms of storm potential here, you can see here we're looking for those darker colors, and you can see them popping up right there. That's the better chance for thunderstorm development. In terms of the winds, here's where they're going. Wind gusts could be 40 to 50 miles per hour at times. These are non-thunderstorm wind gusts, so you take a storm added on top of that, it's definitely not going to take a whole lot to produce a lot of wind damage with these thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. So we'll be here keeping an eye on it. Future coming up right now, 64 tomorrow, but that's falling. Will fall later in the day. Weekend is cold and dry. Chance for a wintry mix Monday. Otherwise, we return back to a springtime feel mid next week. Justin?
All right, Dakota, thank you very much. And we thank you all for joining us today for WNY News Now live at noon. And again, we remind you today at 4 o'clock, we will have live coverage right here of the Chautauqua County officials updating the novel coronavirus status in Chautauqua County. We'll provide that here live and full resources at WNYNewsNow.com. See you back here at 4.